Good afternoon, Razorback fans. Welcome to a special Friday edition of the Hog Talk podcast brought to you by Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios. Today, we have Andrew Hutchinson on from Best of Arkansas Sports. We're going to be looking at doing this once a month throughout football season, basketball, baseball season. So, Andrew, first of all, thank you so much. I know with our schedules, we're finally linking up and being able to do this, being a new dad and everything. And finally, I have a job change. So, we're able to smash this thing up in the afternoon. So welcome aboard, and thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for being flexible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, we're coming into this season as Ryan Silverfield takes over for Arkansas, and I would hate to be a brand new coach in the SEC in the modern era of transfer portal, NIL, and I think the biggest thing to me is what I'm trying to wrap my head around is when he talked, he's pretty much saying the first 90 days of his job's been fundraising. On top of everything else, that's got to be difficult. So if you were to kind of peek behind the curtains, like what is what do you think of just his first couple of months on as head coach? I mean, how good of a job do you think he is doing so far with what he's been given, and just give an outlook on that?
Well, we haven't snapped the ball officially yet in a real game. So that said, I think he's done everything he can do at this point. I mean, Arkansas needed a coach who could come in and fundraise. I mean, we've seen what John Calipari's done with the men's basketball program. Obviously, the relationship with John Tyson helps with that. But I mean, he's also just a master fundraiser, personality, that kind of thing. Dave Van Horn, we've seen this offseason, has gone out and had to raise money and generate these funds for his baseball team. They needed that on the football side as well. Sam Pittman, say what you want about him, I think he's a quality football coach, just not maybe for this era of college athletics. And I think Ryan Silverfield is more built toward that. Now, will he be able to put the X's and O's together, get the right players? All that remains to be seen. But from a fundraising standpoint, basically everyone I've talked to, at the Razorback Foundation and just other people, Silverfield is completely different in terms of how he's able to go out and get people on board. We hear about this all-in funds. They're trying to raise $30 million for the next 3 years. Haven't gotten an update on that in the last month or so, but I mean, they were pretty close to that already, probably ahead of schedule. So it sounds like Silverfield is doing his job on that front. Now, of course, it's not going to matter if he goes out there and they go 2-10 again. People are going to be pissed, and it's going to be hard to raise money again. But I think right now, as we stand on July 17th, he's done everything he could do.
And look, you got to give the guy credit. This isn't somebody look, we can throw Houston Nutt's name in there because when he came from Boise State, he had a mediocre career there. But then I compare maybe to like a PJ Fleck, somebody that had one good year at Western Michigan. He was the hot name and then goes to Minnesota. This guy's proven that at Memphis, he's beaten Arkansas. He's won against Florida State. He knows how to win. And let's just be bluntly honest. We're not asking him to come in here and beat Georgia year one, but he's proven with the talent that he's had at Memphis, he's been able to get some Power 4 wins. And right now, Arkansas desperately needs that. So if you want somebody to come into Arkansas and build this foundation, me and Adam talk about this at nauseum. We're pretty much saying this year's a wash. Build that foundation and show that we're moving this program in the right direction. And I think he could be the guy for the job. And I know it might not come in wins and losses the first couple of years, but he seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders, and he really wants this to go in the right direction.
Yeah, he's young. He's energetic. He says all the right things. He has a 6-year history of being a head coach, not to mention all those years as an assistant coming up through, other smaller college, Power 4 assistants. You've got NFL assistant experience there. I mean, so he's got all these experiences that I think have prepared him and everything. So, I mean, it's going to be hard to win games, but you're not asking him to win 10 games year one. You're not even necessarily asking him to win 7 or 8 games year one. I mean, if he could win 6, shoot, I'd say he's SEC Coach of the Year after what we saw last year. So, I mean, to me, it's just, can you show improvement? And that's the tricky part is how do you show improvement? Because there were close games last year. So it's not like, okay, we'll go 2-10 and just be close in all these. well, that's what you did last year. It's, can you clean up the things that have plagued you forever? The fumbling, penalties, things like that. If you would clean that up and then you're still losing close games, maybe not in heartbreaking fashion, just, competitive, hard games, I think that would help. But we'll see. I mean, we'll, who knows how it's all going to play out. We may be talking here in, 6 months and it's a completely different conversation. Who knows? So it's just so hard to know until we actually get to the games.
Well, you know how Razorback fans are. I mean, it's just you want the hope, and I think the Razorback fans have suffered for so long. They want hope. It's like Bill Clinton back in the day. I believe in a place called hope. So I think when it goes down to discipline, and we seen Sam Pittman era, then it got transitioned to Bobby Petrino, and there was talks of maybe Bobby Petrino and T. Will having some issues about offense, defense, and maybe offense was getting all the NIL money. And you could see, one, there was a difference on both sides of the ball, talent-wise, but the discipline part. So what do you think about the staff, not only just Ryan Silverfield, but the staff he has around him? Because you're talking about those penalties, making adjustments in the second half is another one. What do you see from his staff that you can believe that maybe this thing could start turning in the right direction?
Well, I think he's got a solid staff. I mean, it's not like, the greatest staff ever assembled, but I mean, I think Ron Roberts at defensive coordinator is an experienced veteran guy that I think is going to help with that discipline aspect. We could debate whether or not, his track record means, good things or not. But I mean, people I've talked to seem to like what he does. And he's an older coach. So he's been around the block. So I think that helps. Obviously you've got the offensive staff continuity, I think really helps. We've actually done some research on that over at Best of Arkansas Sports, where it's like, what does this mean? This offensive continuity, does it generally translate? And more times than not, yes, it does. That teams that bring over, the head coach brings his offensive coordinator and brings at least one or two assistants. Otherwise, typically goes well. Now, am I sold on that yet? I'm not sure who's going to be the quarterback. I'm sure we'll talk about that. That's all to be be determined. But I think just from a staff perspective, I think what he's assembled is pretty solid. And again, we'll just have to see how they can prove themselves, not just on the field, but on the recruiting trail, because it better than any. I mean, as well as anybody. I mean, it's Jimmy's and Joe's are just as important, if not more important, than the X's and O's. So we'll see how that all comes together.
I did have to get a little. I would watch somebody. They posted a clip of how good KJ Jackson was on the new college football game, and it just took me back to Taylor and Green, and they were talking about how great he was, explosive on the game, and then the offense. I felt really bad because you're talking about NIL, and we're talking about the $20 million. You see, look, we bought half. That buys half a football team this year, in this time and day, and so you're hoping for that. But the biggest question was, do you think with just how the quarterback controversy is going, do you think that kind of helped? I know SEC media days, it's talking season and everybody wants to dissect things, but it's been brought up that he has not been one of the ones chosen to go to SEC media day. Do you think that was a good move, or is it one that we're all just overthinking it? What is your take on just Ryan Silverfield's decision not to take him to SEC media days?
Well, fans are always going to overthink this stuff way more than anybody, the coaching staff or anything like that. But I mean, let's look at it as not who he didn't bring. Let's look at who he did bring. I mean, he brought, Quincy Rhodes, your best player on the team, either side of the ball. That makes sense. Caden Kittler, he's an old veteran guy. He's your center. Centers generally are really well-spoken. They're smart. They know the offense. He's a holdover. And then, of course, you've got Sutton Smith, a guy that's expected to be an offensive playmaker for you, who came over from Memphis and can speak on what it's like to play for Ryan Silverfield. So those all really make sense. Who are you going to pull out to put in a quarterback? And then at that point, you still have this quarterback competition. They have not named KJ Jackson the starting quarterback. I fully believe he's going to end up being that starting quarterback, but they haven't named it. And they want that competition to at least go into fall camp. If you take KJ Jackson, well, doesn't that signal to everybody that, hey, the decision's already made? You're going to have KJ Jackson put in an awkward spot, having to answer questions like he is the starter, but he knows he's still got a battle to win. So I think that the way it played out, it just made sense to bring the three that they brought and to not take a quarterback because it's still technically up in the air. They haven't named a starter yet.
Well, yeah, and I think you are in a unique situation where he wasn't your starter last year, and now he's kind of being in the starter role. So you're not really even certain. But another thing, you look back at Taylor Green, you look at KJ Jefferson. It's almost like when they were just handed the role, there was no competition, true competition. We've seen the difference between 1 and 2 the last few quarterbacks having some legit competition. You already got a chip on your shoulder. Everybody thinking you're going to finish last in the league. Maybe that just builds that determination. And you know what could win them a couple of games that they might not win, having that true competition and having him actually work for the position and the starter. But you never know. That second guy could come up, take the spot, and you get somebody who earned it, and it was just not given to them because of the position that Arkansas has been in the past 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, and it's really tricky with these two guys because I mean, think about a big part of their game is they're mobile. They can move around and make things happen with their legs. I mean, they. I don't think either one's Taylor Green
Yeah.
or even KJ Jefferson, but they can move around and everything. And we're not going to know what that looks like until they get into live action because they're not going to tackle in practice or in scrimmages or things like that. And plus, I would say you probably the competition is good because you want them battling it out, making each other better, all that good stuff. But at the same time, you probably don't want that competition lasting into the season.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring him up, but Chad Morris, I mean, each year he could never figure out who the quarterback was going to be, and it just lingered throughout the entire season. You're going back and forth, and both options suck. And I mean, I still
Yep.
firmly believe if they had stuck with Nick Starkel, then he would have been a serviceable quarterback. Would he have been all SEC? Probably not, but it would have been better than what we saw unfold. So you got to pick one at some point. Maybe that first game you're playing an FCS team, you can feel it out. Maybe AJ Hill does something surprising, and it's like, oh wow, maybe we need to give him a more of a look. Or maybe it's like, okay, KJ has asserted himself, he's the guy, and then you just gotta roll with it. Unless something happens where it's like, oh my god, we got to make a change.
Well, and honestly, you never know. We don't know what our front line is going to be like. It's almost like you're going to need a second quarterback ready because it's almost you look back at when KJ Jefferson would get hurt, Taylor Green got hurt. You need somebody that you can trust to get in there and do the job. And I think it's very important that a lot of people are not talking about is until you get a staff and your players settled, you get a front line you can fully trust him. It might be best to have not a 2 quarterback system, but yet 2 quarterbacks because you just never know what's going to happen, especially being mobile. That opens you up to a whole new can of worms of potential ways you can get hurt. And until they can get a roster builder or however you may say it, but looking at their schedule, you have North Alabama and then you have Utah. So, I mean, you pretty much got one game because then you got Utah, Tulsa is not or Georgia, then Tulsa and A&M. That first 3-4 game stretch, and then if you even want to extend it to Tennessee, going into October 10th, it's the schedule is not looking too happy for the Hogs.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, and I think having AJ Hill as your backup, if assuming KJ Jackson is a starter to begin the year, having AJ as the backup, I think is good because he's got that. He's not just his first year under this new head coach. He was with him at Memphis. He was thrust into a big spot as a true freshman, having to play significant snaps against, I believe it was UAB during the last season. Played okay. I mean, obviously, I don't think they won that game. But he played okay, especially for being a true freshman in his first real action. So having that experience, being his second year in the system, I think kind of gives you some comfort there that if he is thrust into action, like you're saying, could perform, up to, a certain standard.
Yeah. And I'm sure when we come back and talk about it next month, we can really break down the schedule, but my biggest thing is if you can survive, and I'm saying healthy, and win a couple of games, October 17th on until you get to November 21st, the Texas LSU back-to-back game, there's hope. there to really, not saying they're going to win 6 games and make a bowl game, but there's hope to show we're turning this thing around because you got Vandy. You don't know what they're going to be post Pavia, Missouri, which has always been a thorn in your side, and then Auburn and South Carolina. So, I mean, there's a break there, but we don't know what kind of health they're going to be in when you go through it. So it's a give or take kind of schedule this year for Arkansas.
Yeah, and when you say health, I would say not just physically, but mentally as
Yes.
well. I mean, if you come through that and you've gotten blasted by Utah, blasted by Georgia, blasted by A&M, like what kind of state of mind are these guys going to be in? Have they let go of the rope, as they say at that point of the year? That's going to be critical. I mean, you obviously have to beat North Alabama. You have to beat Tulsa. Uh, I'd say maybe even have to beat those teams handedly because you don't want to just come out beating Tulsa, 21-20 like that. No one's going to feel good about that. But you gotta win those games and be competitive against those others and, show improvement. If there's something like, if the receivers struggle early on in week 1 and 2, you want them to step up and look better weeks 3 and 4. Same across the board at all the positions. So that's what I would say. Once you get to that more manageable 4-game stretch, because that's going to be key. I mean, again, can they get to bowl eligibility? Sure, but there's very little room for margin for error there.
So before we break into the defensive part of it, because that's a big question too, but what if you was to choose offense, defense, which one do you think is the most important? I mean, just this season only, what is the most important side of the ball? Who has the most pressure on them this year?
Ooh, I mean, you could make a case for either way because whatever I just mentioned earlier about the offensive staff continuity, like there is a certain level of pressure there to be good because that's what you're bringing over from Memphis is a good offense. At the same time, defense we've seen over the years, there's been some really really low points on defense at Arkansas, and this is a new defensive coordinator, big questions, new system. I think I would say defense, and plus we don't know what the quarterback is going to look like. So like, okay, you can't give up that many points if you're going to have a chance. So I would lean toward defense kind of being the side of the ball that has a lot of pressure on them. They need to be better, than obviously better than last year, but maybe better than expected for them to have any kind of hope this year.
Yeah, and I think from a fan standpoint too, you're like, man, if that defense it was just half, 50% better than what they were, we're looking at a bowl eligible team. We're looking at maybe a 7-win team. So that frustration of, all right, we're fresh on both sides of the ball, new coaches. If they can show that they can get a defense year 1 in the SEC, now there's hope of, okay, the offense can come around. And so, yes, I'm with you. I think the defensive side of the ball is most important because, look, you're having until you get your key players, your 4 stars, 5 stars, or you start getting these portal players, you can have a mediocre defense talent-wise and be able to spread all over the field with the right coaching. You look at a Michigan State, what they were able to do for years there, and Antonio and 3 stars and build that continuity and stop some people. Your offense is not scoring in 50 seconds and then coming right back out in 20 because your defense is giving up a lot of points.
Yeah, I'm very anxious to see kind of what Ron Roberts' system will look like, and how they can scheme things up to get after the quarterback. I'm very intrigued. Like just kind of diving in specifically on one position. I was thinking about this earlier today, like the jack position, that kind of hybrid defensive end linebacker. There's some serious talent there. I mean, we all know Charlie Collins. He's an Arkansas guy. But then you also bring in, Steven Souls from Kentucky. I mean, just look at his production in the limited sample size at Kentucky, another SEC school, and that's got to give you some reason to be excited about him. And I think he flashed some in the spring game as well. And then you also have Waller from Auburn as well. He's the guy that was recruited by Ron Roberts originally, and he's been battling injuries throughout his entire career. But he's a guy if he can get healthy, maybe he's a guy that can give you something. And so like that position right there, there's plenty of reason to be optimistic and be like, okay, maybe this team can get after the quarterback. Because we know what Quincy Rhodes can do. If you got Quincy Rhodes opposite of whoever is that jack, I mean, if you can get after the quarterback, maybe make some stuff happen, force some turnovers and get some sacks and things like that. So that it's all about the scheme, I think, with Ron Roberts, because that's what he's known for, is his unique scheme on defense. I'm really anxious to see kind of how that looks in actual game action.
Well, and the best thing about it, you're playing with house money this year. Nobody expects you to do anything. Go out there, and I'm not saying just lay an egg, but you can go out there and you're going to catch people off guard. Even if you go on, I'm just saying, let's say they pull off an upset against Georgia or Utah. You beat Tulsa, A&M's that game, but then you go on a roll where you do beat Vandy, you do beat Missouri, but you're still in a boat where people are still going to underestimate you. And I think that's the biggest key, is go out there and give it all. And I've told Adam this many times, this all in, it gets me because of the personal aspect. I've heard that since 2008 with Clemson and Dabo. So this all in mentality, I can get behind it, but it's like you're almost 10 years, 20 years too late on that one. So, but I get the aspect, but yes, you going in there and guys can fly around and have fun, and let's see what they do because the biggest thing is discipline. If they can have discipline in the offsides or the turnovers or the fumbles, I mean, that could be the biggest issue, is just turnovers in general.
Yeah, that's been talked about ad nauseum by everybody that's ever talked about Arkansas football this offseason is turnovers. I mean, it's ridiculous how many times they fumbled the ball. I know going into last year, Arkansas had committed the most fumbles, not necessarily fumbles lost, but most fumbles in the country since 2020. I think that is still accurate through last year. They didn't have quite as many fumbles last year, but the ones they did have were very critical. We all remember it: Ole Miss, Memphis.
Yep.
But if they could clean that up, I mean, just look at those two games specifically. Don't fumble there. You probably win at least one of those games, if not both of them. And then who knows? Maybe Sam Pittman's still the head coach, and whatever.
Yep.
But it is the number one frustrating thing. And then also on the flip side of that is, can the defense force some turnovers? I mean, that's the one reason that the 21 team was so good, I feel like, is they forced a lot of turnovers. And like those Barry Odom defenses maybe weren't the best, in terms of limiting yardage and things like that, but they got timely turnovers, they got timely stops. And that's what the Arkansas has been missing the last few years, is getting those turnovers. If they get a hand on a ball, go ahead and pick it off. Or if you manage to get it loose, jump on it. That I think is going to be just as critical to flipping the turnover margin as, not turning it over.
Yeah. And we'll wrap things up here. From a media aspect, we get harped on all the time about the negativity, and even the ADs like, oh, y'all need to start being more positive and this and that. And how much fun would it be to be able to start writing more positive things, upsets and wins? Y'all been probably waiting this for 10 years, waiting for something to keep going. So I know everybody's rooting for Ryan Silverfield, and I know from your aspect, it's either, if it's very good or very bad, you're writing great articles, but we're stuck in this middle, this limbo of where are we going to be? So just how excited when you heard Ryan Silverfield and you're kind of seeing what you've seen so far, how excited are you for this new era of Razorback football?
I think I'm excited because it is a new era, just period. Not, Ryan Silverfield aside, just it is something different, because that's where it gets to the point where it's like, okay, you're 6 years in, or 5 or 6 years into Sam Pittman, people have just kind of lost interest. The Mike Anderson era on the basketball front, people have just lost interest. And I think Mike was a very good coach, and better than maybe he gets credit for, but people just kind of, man, we don't care. They needed a change.
I feel the thing was with Brett Bielema. I compare Brett Bielema and Mike Anderson a lot. They did their job. It's just everybody got complacent with it, and it's almost like with Brett Bielema, the downfall was when they done the being Brett Bielema, and he got that contract, and it's almost like complacency of having the new child and stuff like that, and it just drifted away. So yes, I get what you're saying with Mike Anderson there.
Exactly. It's just some excitement, and the thing is like, people get on this whole positive negative thing. It's like, well, we're writing negative things because the team is losing. I get hammered all the time during baseball season for being a homer, because I'm writing good things because they're winning.
Yeah.
That's how it works. I write what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
Every once in a while you'll see something that's like, okay, they won, but this is bad, and you kind of have a negative slant, or the vice versa.
Well, then you get killed for that. Hey, look,
Exactly.
they
There's no way to win. There's
Yeah,
no way to win
exactly.
in that front.
Welcome
But
to Arkansas media.
exactly. But I am
I think the
excited.
biggest point is too, look, the confidence we're handing the keys over to a proven coach instead of a John L. Smith, a Chad Morris, a Sam Pittman. We're handing in the keys over to somebody who's proven they can be a head coach. I think that's the biggest key where I have the biggest confidence in this turnaround. I'm not saying he's going to get us to 8, 9, 10 wins, but I have confidence that he is going to try his damnedest to get this thing turned around. And I think in the circumstances we're all right now, that's the best. And that's the only thing you can hope for right now.
Exactly. He seems to be a little bit, OCD, with the changing out the light bulbs in the facility and, things like that. And then going out and doing the fundraising stuff we talked about earlier. So like, that's good. You want your coach to be very, attention to detail kind of thing. And he's not just focused on what plays am I going to call or things like that. It seems to be very comprehensive. Again, is it going to translate to wins? I'm not sure. And I don't even, regardless of what happens, I don't know if it's going to be fully reflective of him. Like, is he going to be given the resources he needs to succeed that Sam Pittman infamously did not have? So
Yes.
we'll see. We'll see. I mean, again, we're in such a, July 17th, we're very much in a holding pattern here to kind of see how it goes, in the season. And then we'll probably honestly need a couple of seasons under our belt before we can really form a true strong opinion of whether or not he's the right guy.
Absolutely. And I think that's the chance he deserves, just give him a chance to see what he can do. But yeah, we're going to have plenty of stuff going on between now and we come back next month. We'll know a little bit more about this team leading up to the North Alabama game on September 5th. So fans, stay tuned. We're going to be trying to do this once a month, at least bring Andrew on, give us his thoughts and stuff. And maybe if we have a hot topic come up, bring him on more than once a month. But I mean, thank you again for coming on. And I do hope that this thing turns around. We have some good things to talk about next month.
Oh, we can only hope.
All right. Well, thank you. Have a good afternoon, man.
Appreciate it.
Well, that was Andrew Hutchinson, the best of Arkansas sports. Like we said, we're going to have him on once a month to come on and talk to us about some Razorback football. And you got to give it to Silverfield and what he's doing, what he's trying to do. And he does deserve that chance. I know there's, it's either right now you're either in love with the program or you're still doom and gloom. I mean, we're seeing he's going to come in year one and get 6, 7 wins, or we're going to go 2-10. It's until we know what they have, until we know what they're placing on the field, it's hard with this schedule. There's hope. Like we said, there is a window right there, Vanderbilt, Missouri, Auburn, South Carolina, that you could pick up some wins. I don't see, even best case scenario for me. I mean, I'm looking at four wins, best case scenario, just because of what they have on the field and who you're playing against. But the question marks are, what does South Carolina have? What's Auburn have? What's Missouri have? What's Vandy have? The Tulsa game is still, whether it's just Tulsa, but that's still a toss-up. You want to win that game. But North Alabama is your only for sure win of the year that I see. And, I mean, if you want to go second game, Tulsa. So 2 wins that you could say is guaranteed if you want to go that route. After that, you don't know. You're going to Utah, and then you got to turn around and play Georgia. Then you got A&M, Tennessee back-to-back. But even as bad as last year was, even as bad as the defensive was, what me and Andrew just laid out, there's hope for some wins there, because if you can bring in the discipline and you can get in players to look house money, that motivation can be key. And if they can build something special and then build that onto the program that we have underneath Ryan Silverfield, if I'll say this, if Arkansas wins 5 games this year, I think that's huge. It might transition to still your 5-7, but that is a 3-game difference in what you were the past 2 years. So if he could come in and win 5 games and he could show that he is drastically, with the talent he has, that's going to be able to open up the opportunities to bringing in better transfer players. You're going to have a quarterback in your system that's ready to come back for year 2. You're going to have The only question mark really, you've got your running game going this year, but what's your offensive line going to be like? If they could just start building something here at Arkansas with the football program, but what he ended on with right there is the money. You got to have the support, and you can have the drive, but two things to be successful in life with anything you do, you got to have the support and the drive. If you can have the drive all you want, but if you ain't got the support, it's only going to last. Or you can have the support, but if you don't have the drive, you're going to be in the same predicament. That's where we are with Ryan Silverfield. I love what I'm seeing out of him so far, but the Razorback fan in me, Razorback fan and everybody around, you're still cautious until we see wins. And we know there's people out there, they're trying to do the best they can to hype up the fans, but it's falling on deaf ears right now because the fans want to see results. They want to see wins. But when your highest of the higher up is not showing any support, we're saying what we're doing on the corporate side of things, or the building and the what we've done for the foundation, but we're not seeing anything go to the NIL. We're not seeing hardly anything go to the kids. I mean, Texas Tech just signed a deal that matches Arkansas. So they got a big deal. And on top of that, NIL opportunities for the players. So that's what we would have wanted to see out of Arkansas. Make this big deal with your naming rights, but yet, hey, make an opportunity for the kids. And I think they're saying they're having opportunities, but they're not as big as we want or need. And if you want to do all your, put all your eggs in your basket with the football program, that's fine. I will take a 2-year. You want to put all of your eggs in one basket on when you talk about that 20.5 million or your NIL, get more NIL to build your football program, because that is the most important program on your campus is your football program. Because if you start winning in football, you start getting the players, you're going to get more people to give into the NIL. You're going to be able to have a better football team, and then everybody else gets to eat too. Because we go back to the 21 season, we seen the excitement around the campus after that Texas game. If you would have went and done a Razorback raffle back in 21, how much money would you have had for whatever you want? So it's very important that we start things. We're not asking for a complete transformation and a bowl eligibility this year. We want to see promise, but we want to see support. And from the 100-year check to get NIL support for the football team. And that's what we ask for. So that's what we're hoping for. And again, Andrew Hutchinson will be back we'll have him on a Friday sometime next month. So we're looking forward to that from Best of Arkansas Sports. But thank you for everybody for tuning into this special edition of the Hawk Talk podcast, brought to you by Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios. And we will catch you on Monday.